like you need a DNA test, go do that on your own time because you feel that way. I don't think every person, there's millions of people in the United States. Like, it doesn't make sense that people could be using that time to do other things. Like, you could be saving a life. You could be in the hospital saving a life.
I personally pay taxes, and I care about where my money goes. I'm not here to pay for so-and-so because there's a confusion about who's the father. That's not my business. Handle your personal shit. And for me, I want to fund schools. I want to fund the MTA because the trains are never on time. We got bigger problems. We have bigger problems. I'm sorry. I'm not paying for no mandatory test.
Let us understand why it's so selfish of you women who debate and argue against these mandatory paternity tests. Because we hear these stories time and time again. We see numerous clips of men presenting the DNA papers to their woman and say, hey, look, it's proof that I am not the father.
You are not. Lying, I'm the father of that baby, boss. Boss, I'm that baby's daddy. I'm Pappy.
I don't think there's any issue with a man taking care of another man's child. Women do it all the time, whether you know or not. He might bring another child and say, oh, I had this out of our wedlock, you know, what are we going to do? Or he's taking your money and paying child support to another family. You had no idea. So when we're just like jumping like, oh, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Hold on. It's already being done.
You could have been doing so many other things with your life. You could have been figuring your life out. I don't know, feeding pigeons. I don't know, doing anything. But you raising a kid that is not yours. I mean, if you had the option to know that was your kid and you wanted to raise that kid, that's perfectly fine. A lot of people do that. But when you don't know, you're doing it out of the obligation or the mindset that this is my child, I'm going to raise him or her, I'm going to raise him up, I love them, this is my DNA, this is my blood. And then come to find out, that's not your kid. That's not your kid.
In all honesty, I think, you know, with government, you know, potentially, passing the law to make DNA like a must, I think it works out for the best for everyone, in all honesty, because for a kid, I think the kid deserves to know who's their real mother and father. And if it's something that we started now, it's something that makes it an easier conversation down the road where it's not necessarily about trust, but it's just something that comes as a part of having a kid. I mean, you know, you've already tested the baby to make sure that it's healthy. Why not test to make sure you understand who the parents understand?
You bonded with a little child that you believed and had no reason not to believe.
Yeah.
Was yours. How long did you have with the child?
From when she was born, it was 18 months, approximately.
And the amount of bonding you do with the baby in 18 months.
Yeah. Having in mind that was like a lockdown as well, so it was, you know, giving her a feed, and I was working from home as well, so I was constantly around that child. The bond just got stronger and stronger. I come home one day, and I just got a hand-delivered letter from my ex, and it literally was stating about laboratory error, and on the letter it said about a peace of mind test as well to be done. So I followed the instructions of that, and then that's when I decided to complete two tests, and both of them come back that I weren't the father.
Hi guys, I just want to stop by and talk a little bit about this disturbing case that I saw in the media out of Detroit. This just happened a couple of days ago where the husband allegedly found out that all three of his children were not his. And he got a weapon and PQ'd his wife, and she's alive at this point. He's incarcerated at this point. But when I think about what happened, you know, imagine you thought these children were yours all of these years, and then you find out that they weren't. And that's a lot of emotional trauma to process. Not to condone what he did, but then now on the flip side, he didn't think through his actions, and now he could end up serving 10, 20, 30 years easily for this. So my question is that do you think mandatory DNA testing at the hospital could potentially rectify this situation? Because it's happening more and more where fathers are finding out later that they're not the father of the child. They've paid money. This could rock their world, and then it's a factor in domestic violence occurring. So if we started doing mandatory DNA testing at the hospitals, do you think that could potentially rectify the situation? Because then we would know the truth up front. Comment below. Let me know your thoughts.
You can get cut off in dating so fast nowadays, like texting every day, FaceTiming, hanging out for like 2 months, then one day they don't answer. You're like, hey, is everything all right? Like, can you stop texting me? I have a boyfriend. Thought I was your boyfriend. What am I, Shutter Island? Did I ever actually exist? How could you even talk to anyone more than me? You told me yesterday you didn't talk to anyone. That's all it is nowadays. Just smoke and mirrors, talking to a bunch of people till someone decides they like someone a little bit more than everyone else. No communication, no explanation. Then in 3 weeks they get played by that person. They're texting you again, like, hey, can we FaceTime later? It's like, look who it is.
When men want to go 50-50 with women, we need to remind them sexism is expensive. I recently came across a brilliant talk on gender issues done by a man, a Korean man. He talked about even in this day and age where we talk about gender equalities, men should still take on more responsibilities. And this is what he said in his speech. I often got young men approach me and ask, why do only men serve in the military? Why do only men do dangerous jobs? Why are men expected to pay the debts or support the family? And the answer is very simple. Because it was men who made those rules, not women. For generations, men believe women weren't capable of serving in the military, that only dangerous work. It's men who define women as fragile and weak, and that belief became a self-fulfilling limitation. Men paying for dates, men supporting families. These customs exist because men systemically placed women in a weaker economic position for centuries. In other words, it was male-created sexism that led to the so-called reverse sexism men complaining today. Women have always had ability, but that ability was restricted and discriminated against. For a long time, women were denied equal access to education and work. So naturally, their social contributions and social benefits were limited. So how did society try to fix that imbalance? By requiring men to take on more work and more obligations. That's what we call the cost of discrimination, the price men pay for the sexism men created. But many men don't realize this. They say, but women make money too, why do men have to pay more? They only see their individual burdens, not the systemic imbalance. On average, men still have more access to resources, wealth, and power, and therefore more responsibilities. Women continue to face structural disadvantage in economic, social, and political arenas. Inequality is created by the very system men built. You may have not built the system, but you still benefit from it every single day. But most men don't question the system, they don't criticize the structure, they blame women instead. Because you can't see a social structure, but you can see women. I'll just let that sink in.
I've been going on dates for the past 2 weeks. When I say I'm not satisfied, this what the fuck I got to choose. When you take me on a date, you open up my fucking door. You open up the door. You pull out the chart if it's a chart, and you cut my fucking steak if it's a steak. I'm always gonna order a steak to see if you got some fucking home training, hoe. If you take a female on a date, she order a steak, you cut it. The fuck? They pre-cut it, then you cut it. Be a gentleman. Be the gentleman. You trying to gently touch on this ass? Do the work. Do the work. We going on multiple dates. You want some ass from me? We going on multiple dates. We putting in effort. Bitch, we doing what we gotta do to get some ass. Fuck on.
Same mothers and women you want them to become. Do you understand that? They were told by your very same mothers and your very same grandmothers that you say they should be like, to work for themselves, be independent, never take shit from a man. They are a product of the very same woman you want them to be like. That should open your mind. I think most men have never had a decent conversation, sat down with their grandparents and their parents and asked exactly how the dynamics of their relationships were. I've sat down with my mother, I've sat down with my grandmother, and they've told me, as much as you've seen me do things in the house and do all of these things, it was not favorable. I did this because I was in a situation where I did not have enough power or enough ability to take care of myself, so I would have a say. So I had to turn a blind eye on other things because of that. That is why the modern woman, the modern girl child was taught. They were told by the very same women you admire, by the very same women you say were woman enough and they were the woman of your dreams, to say, hey, don't be like me. Don't be so submissive. Don't just take everything, question everything. Don't take shit from a man. Work for yourself so that you can have a voice in your marriage and you can be independent. So maybe the issue here is that men keep on having this image that, no, our grandparents, our mothers, without ever sitting down their mothers and asking them if they really enjoyed the very same behavior you saw growing up. Were they okay with it? Were they fine? Is that something they wanted to do, or it's something they found themselves in and they had to learn how to survive within that scenario and within that situation? You will be shocked. You will really be shocked that even the men, even your own fathers, even your own grandfathers were telling their daughters, the women you're dealing with now, that, hey, my daughter, please don't take shit from a man, don't listen to a man, be independent. So the very same men before us created the very same women. They raised these women, the men raised these women, the females raised these women. These women are a product of their hopes and dreams. This is not by accident, this is not magic. There has to be a point where, as a man, you ask yourself, how did these women end up being like this if they were raised by good women and good grandmothers? There was a problem initially. Every time, just because, and it's something I realized earlier, just because everything seems together, just because your house is running, you always have food to eat, everything is fine, you always have money to go to school, you assume there's no financial problems at the house until you sit your parents down and you ask them, and you'll be shocked. They are in debt, they don't know what you're going to eat tomorrow, they haven't known for a while, but somehow they make things work. And I think we have that mentality as grown men now. We look at it like kids. We look at the situation like kids. How did they make it work if there were problems? They just kept them away from you. You're a grown-ass man. Sit down, talk to the women in your life, talk to your sisters, talk to your grandparents, talk to your grandmother, and you'll be shocked how many of them actually promoted and raised the women that you complain about today. Of course, it's not all of them. Some still push the patriarchy. I don't know why or how. Maybe they enjoyed it. Maybe they found it beneficial. But I'm saying the women you are comparing the modern women to are the ones that actually told these women to be like this. It's not by accident. It's not that your mothers and your grandmothers did not want the women to be like this. They are a product of their hopes and dreams. Actually, modern women are living the dreams and the desires of women back in the day that you admire, that you want them to behave like.
Women don't fear their lives enough for me. They would run towards danger just to go on a date with a stranger, choosing to be in denial and delusional on purpose, doing it all for the plot and entertainment purposes. Women love the drama. They love chaos. Yet y'all claiming online, I would rather choose a bear. You know that's a damn lie, because you on these dating apps choosing your predator, choosing your oppressor, choosing your killer. All you gotta do is say, let's go to Applebee's at 7 a.m. You got your heels on, purse on, you ready to go. Because you want to get wine and dine so bad. You want attention so bad. Get fed so bad. Doing it all for the free food. You're probably gonna go visit Pound Town and go over this strange man's house you don't even know. Trade your body just for a compliment, just for a dinner date, so he can penetrate. Y'all don't care enough about y'all lives to me. Y'all living life recklessly, on the edge, doing it all for the plot.
Do you consider yourself a feminist?
Yes, in the way of like making sure women have equal rights.
So you consider yourself a feminist, but in your pre-show notes you said that you appreciate traditional values. How do you reconcile being a feminist but also holding men to their traditional gender roles?
Not every woman lives the same lifestyle, so I think it's important that they have representation and minimization of sexism as well as like harassment in the work industry.
Okay, you said minimization of sexism. Don't you think it's a rather sexist position to believe that men should be providers?
I think that's like a traditional thing.
If you have an expectation on men by virtue of their gender to be providers, isn't that sexist?
I would just personally like to have a person that would like to provide for me.
That's traditional gender roles. Again, how do you reconcile being a feminist but wanting traditional treatment from men? Throughout the entire course of the relationship, you want a guy to provide for you. You want traditional treatment, and it sounds like you want him to pay your bills. You want an allowance. You want him to pay for your nails. If you go on trips, you want him to pay for it. If you guys were living together, would you want him to pay the entire rent?
Yeah.
So let me get this straight. So many modern day women think that they're the prize because basically they're a functioning adult and they pay their bills. Like, congratulations for paying your electric bill. I guess that means you deserve princess treatment. Meanwhile, these women are ill-mannered, don't know how to communicate, they don't know how to take constructive criticism, they only know how to focus on negative behaviors instead of positive behaviors, they have unhealed trauma that they constantly project onto other people, they're selfish and entitled and expect everyone to cater to them while they give nothing in return. They have poor time management, they don't have any priorities in place, they don't know how to focus, they don't know what they really want in life, which is why they dabble in everything and sleep around. They prefer negative attention rather than no attention at all. Their idea of positive friendships is how many followers they have, and their reputation online is more important than who they are in real life. Dismissive to anybody's feelings or opinions if it doesn't validate them. They bully people while simultaneously preaching women empowerment, but yet they have so much to bring to the table because they're a functioning adult and they pay their bills. Make that make sense. Okay, bye.
I don't understand why a man asking for a DNA test is such a controversial issue to women, or such a problem to women. And I know that women are gonna, make an argument that a man asking for a DNA test is him implying that he doesn't trust his wife, his girlfriend, or whoever it is that he's in a relationship with. Listen, bro, in today's climate, as a man, this is to men. Even secure yourself and make sure that, the children that you are raising are yours, then you are taking a huge risk. You are taking a huge risk. And I'm not sure that's a risk that you should be willing to pay. You should be willing to take. And as for the woman who was saying that she doesn't think there's nothing wrong with a man taking care of another man's kid, listen, as long as he knows, not under false pretenses. The last thing you need as a man is for you to spend 18, 20 years of your life raising a child, only to find out later on that is not your kid, that is not your child. And for them to even make an argument that, that like public funds shouldn't be used to fund paternity tests and all of that. Well, next time we have an issue, a problem that is pertaining to women, it should have the same manage. Because I'm of the belief that any problem that affects the community at a larger scale, it should be addressed accordingly. Problems such as paternity testing, gender-based violence, these are problems, crime, these are problems that should be addressed, not just by a man, not just by women, but everyone, because they affect everyone. And the crazy thing is that in all of this, the person who's not being taken into consideration is the kid. All their sentiments are selfish sentiments. It's all about them, not the child, not anyone else, just about them. Can you imagine as a kid growing up thinking that someone is your father, then one day out of nowhere you find out that this person that you thought was your father all along is not your father? That would be a heartbreaking thing for a kid to find out. But they're not taking that into consideration. All they are thinking about is what they care about, how they feel, and all of this nonsense. It's insane, bro. It's completely insane. And as for the woman who was saying that when she goes out on a date, listen, she was using a lot of curse words, so I was trying to, go through it, but I think that, listen, I'm not cutting no steak. Let's start from there. When I go out with my chick, I don't cut a steak. Listen, maybe that's a thing that, some guys might be willing to, to do, but me personally, I'm not doing that. And I wouldn't advise any man to do that. I don't think that has anything to do with being a gentleman. I think at some point as men, we need to have some self-respect. Seriously, we really need to have some self-respect, because yes, pulling out a chair, I understand. Opening a door, yes, I understand. I think those are reasonable things. I don't think it's a world-breaking thing that, as a man, you should pull out a chair for your woman, or you should open a door for her, or even pay. But that depends on how long you've known the person and what your intentions are. Yeah. Then the other important thing that I wanted to address was the guy who was saying that one of the important things that we not take into consideration as men when we address these issues is that these women today are not like this because they woke up out of nowhere and became like this. They were taught to be like this. They were taught by their mothers, grandmothers, and even their fathers. That is true. That is absolutely true. Are there reasonable basis for women to feel the way they feel? Yes, you can look at history, you can look at the past and say, the reason why we said women should be like this is because there are a lot of men taking advantage of the power dynamic. Okay, cool. But you can't take those men and make it seem like was all the men who were doing all of those things. It wasn't all. And maybe instead of only holding women accountable, we should look at the men of previous generations and and look at them and say, how could you allow this to happen? Or how could two things can be true at the same time. You can empower women to have some self-independence at the same time emphasize the importance of having family and having a relationship and building a family, having kids. And for that other stupid woman who was saying that she doesn't, there's no benefit in women having kids, having families, and women have woken up and realized that, they don't need a man. There's no benefit in having a relationship. Listen, if you wanna be a lesbian, just say so. If you wanna be a lesbian, just say so. I think that's direct and simple. You don't have to, make it seem like, oh my God, we don't care. We listen. If you wanna be a lesbian, say so. If you hate men, just say so. Just say I hate men. Then we get the message. I know I would be foolish to sit here and think that I don't need a woman. Listen, I want to be married. I want to have kids. Obviously, I need a woman. For me, one of the things, one of the conditions, if I may say that, is that for me to have a kid, I have to be married first. I can't have a kid with a woman that I'm not married to. I genuinely can't. I don't think that's controversial. And one other thing for me personally, the woman that I'm married to has to be. Listen, I don't want a woman who has had previous experiences. I want a woman who's a virgin, like the one that I'm currently with. You really have to be intentional in your life nowadays, not to mention all these diseases that are out here. So my thing is, I don't sleep around. I won't advise any man or woman to sleep around. So you really need to be intentional about how you live your life and how you look after yourself. And stop fucking listening to these chicks talking about, I don't need a man. Listen, we need each other. That's a fact. That's a whole fact. In fact, I would go as far as saying that if you look at how women live and how their lives are, I would say a lot of things that they do, a lot of things that, help assist how they live and how they do things, has a touch of a man in it, or on it. So I don't understand where this sentiment of I don't need a man comes from. The whole infrastructure in the whole world was built by men. Am I wrong? Was built by men. It has always been this way. It's currently this way. And it's always going to be that way. The backbone of every society is men. And as soon as your men become weak, or as soon as your men fail, the whole society falls. You become a failed society. So I don't know what the fuck they're talking about, a lot of these chicks. And yes, I do agree that there's some self-accountability, not to me personally because I don't do it, but to the men of previous generations and the situations that they've put us through. Not just the men, even the women. Because you'd be surprised that there are a lot of women from previous generations that are in the 60s and 70s now, who are doing the same exact thing, the same exact thing that the women today are doing. So I don't understand. This is not just a modern situation. The reason why it's a modern situation is because now we have social media, we have TikTok, we have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have X. We have all of these things to streamline and to, view these issues. But they were there. It's just that they didn't have social media back then. So I would say that as a woman, be careful, take care of yourself. As a man, be vigilant, be careful of the woman you choose to sleep with, because it just may be the death of you. Not literally, but it just may be the death of you. Be careful out here, man. Like and subscribe the video.